Sunday afternoon. Race day. You're standing in your yard watching the sky. Your club mates started clocking birds an hour ago. You've heard the calls on the radio. Birds are arriving, but none of yours yet. You scan the horizon anxiously. Then you see movement. A bird, coming from the race direction. Flying strong, it's yours. You recognize the flight pattern. Relief floods through you. The bird circles high, descending in the typical spiral approach. Lower, lower, you can see it clearly now. Definitely one of yours. The band glints in the sun. The bird is maybe 50 meters up, directly over your street. Any second now it will land on your landing board and enter the trap. You're ready to clock the arrival. This will be a good position, maybe top 10 based on the timing. But the bird doesn't land on your roof. It makes another circle, wider this time. It's looking, searching. You call out, you whistle the feeding signal. The bird ignores you or doesn't hear you. It circles again. And then it commits to a landing, but not on your roof, on your neighbor's roof. 3 houses down. The bird lands on the neighbor's ridge tiles, sits there, looks around. 15 seconds pass, 30 seconds, 1 minute. Your neighbor's birds are landing on their own roof, entering their trap, getting clocked. Your bird sits there watching them. 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Finally, after 5 agonizing minutes, your bird jumps off the neighbor's roof, flies back toward your loft, circles once more, and lands on your landing board. Enters the trap. You clock the arrival. You look at the time. 5 minutes and 20 seconds slower than it should have been, based on when the bird arrived over the street. 5 minutes, 20 seconds. That just cost you 30 to 40 positions in the race. Your bird flew perfectly. Navigation was excellent. Speed was excellent. Energy management was excellent. And you lost 30 positions because the bird couldn't identify which roof was home. This scenario is incredibly common, maybe the most common preventable cause of poor race positions. Birds arrive at their general loft area with no problems. Then they can't distinguish their specific loft from surrounding buildings. They land on wrong roofs, waste time sitting there, eventually find their way home. But after devastating time loss, the fancier blames the bird, thinks the bird is stupid or poorly trained. The bird isn't the problem. The loft identification is the problem. The bird arrived where it should. It navigated hundreds of kilometers successfully. But in the final 50 meters, it failed because the loft doesn't provide clear visual identification that distinguishes it from neighboring buildings. This is a management failure, not a bird failure, and it's fixable in 50 seconds with materials costing less than €1. Today we're covering the single fastest, most effective loft visibility improvement you can implement. Not painting the entire roof, though that helps. Not installing expensive electronic markers or lights, though those can help too. The 50-second fix that requires no construction, no expense, no technical knowledge, a simple cloth marker that provides exactly what birds need to identify home instantly from altitude and distance. Let's start with understanding why birds have difficulty identifying specific lofts in built-up areas. From ground level, standing in your yard, your loft is obviously distinct to you. You know exactly which building it is. You can see the trap entrance. You can see distinctive features. But you're viewing from 3 meters away at ground level. Your birds are viewing from 50 to 200 meters altitude, descending at speed, scanning a landscape that includes dozens or hundreds of buildings. From that perspective, most lofts look very similar. Rectangular buildings with roofs. In neighborhoods where many people race pigeons, there might be 5 or 10 lofts within 200 meters. All similar in basic appearance. Brown roofs, gray walls, similar size and shape. To a bird descending from altitude, these lofts are nearly indistinguishable without specific markers. Birds identify home through visual pattern recognition. They learn what home looks like from the air during training flights. They remember specific visual characteristics, color patterns, distinctive shapes, relationships between buildings, and they search for those characteristics when returning. If your loft has strong distinctive visual characteristics, birds identify it quickly and confidently. If your loft looks like every other building in the area, birds have to search, circle, look for subtle clues and often guess wrong initially. The problem is compounded when multiple lofts are close together. Your bird is looking for home. It sees several buildings that all look somewhat similar. Maybe it remembers home is the brown roof near the tall tree. But there are 3 brown roofs near tall trees. The bird has to make a choice. Sometimes it chooses correctly. Sometimes it chooses the neighbor's roof, lands there, realizes the error after a delay, and then corrects. Every wrong landing costs minutes and race positions. Some fanciers think this is training problem. If I train my birds properly, they'll know where home is. Training helps, absolutely. Birds that have flown from the loft hundreds of times have better familiarity with the area and better recognition of home. But training doesn't overcome poor visibility. A well-trained bird viewing an indistinct loft still struggles to identify it with certainty. A moderately trained bird viewing a highly distinctive loft identifies it easily. The loft visibility matters more than training quantity beyond a basic minimum. Other fanciers think this is intelligence or quality problem. Good birds don't land on wrong roofs. False. This has nothing to do with bird quality. Champion birds land on wrong roofs if the loft is hard to identify. Average birds land on correct roofs immediately if the loft is highly visible. The bird's ability to identify home depends on how distinct and visible home is, not on the bird's quality. The solution is making your loft visually distinctive in ways that are obvious from altitude. There are many approaches to this, but the single most effective quick implementation is adding high contrast, highly visible markers near the trap entrance. And the best marker for most situations is bright colored cloth. Here's why cloth works better than other marking approaches. First, cloth moves. Birds are extraordinarily sensitive to movement. A static painted pattern on a roof is visible but passive. A cloth marker that flutters in wind creates movement that catches visual attention from much greater distance. Birds notice moving objects far more readily than static objects. The fluttering cloth is like a flag saying, "Look here." This is different from the static roofs around it. Second, cloth can be extremely high contrast color. You can choose bright red, vivid orange, electric yellow, or other colors that don't occur naturally in building materials. These unnatural bright colors stand out dramatically against typical roof colors: browns, grays, blacks, dark reds. A bright red cloth against dark roof background creates visual contrast that's visible from half a kilometer or more in good conditions. Third, cloth is three-dimensional and catches light differently than flat painted surfaces. As the cloth moves in wind, different angles catch sunlight, creating flashes of bright color that attract attention. This is more dynamic and attention-getting than flat color. Fourth, cloth is simple to implement. No construction, no painting, no permanent modification to your loft. You tie a piece of cloth to a secure point near your trap, and you're done. If you decide to change color or position later, you untie it and move it. Total commitment is 50 seconds of time and €1 for cloth. Fifth, cloth works in varied weather conditions. In fog or light rain, when painted markers become less visible, a bright cloth close to the trap entrance remains visible because of its movement and because birds are already close to the loft by the time they need to identify the specific entrance. In strong wind, the cloth flutters more vigorously, making it even more visible. In calm conditions, it hangs as distinctive color marker. The implementation is extremely simple, but the details matter for maximum effectiveness. Let's go through the exact protocol step by step. Step 1. Select cloth material and color. Use cotton cloth or similar natural fiber fabric. Don't use plastic or synthetic materials that might deteriorate rapidly in weather, or that might be too stiff to move in light wind. Cotton moves well in even light breeze and is durable enough to last weeks exposed to weather. The size should be approximately 10 by 10 centimeters, maybe as large as 15 by 15 centimeters. This is large enough to be clearly visible from altitude, but not so large that it becomes unwieldy in strong wind or blocks the trap entrance. A 10-centimeter square of cloth weighs almost nothing, but is highly visible when it's bright colored. The color should be the brightest, most vivid red you can find. Red is the single best color for this application in most environments. Red doesn't occur naturally in most landscapes. It contrasts strongly with typical roof colors. It's highly visible to birds. It shows up well in varied light conditions. Get the most vivid bright red cotton cloth available. If red isn't suitable for some reason, maybe your entire neighborhood has red roofs, choose a different high contrast color. Bright orange, electric yellow, or pure white are alternatives. The key is maximum contrast with surrounding environment. In doubt, choose red. Step 2. Prepare the cloth. Cut a square or rectangular piece of the selected size. 10 by 10 centimeters is a good starting point. Some fanciers use slightly larger pieces, maybe 10 by 20 centimeters, to create more visual impact. Experiment with what works for your situation. Some fanciers cut the cloth with pointed ends or frayed edges to create more movement. This can increase visibility but isn't necessary. A simple square works fine. Don't hem or sew the edges unless the cloth frays excessively. Slightly frayed edges actually add to the movement visibility. The cloth doesn't need to be neat or finished. It needs to be visible. Step 3. Select attachment location. The cloth should be attached very close to the trap entrance, within 1 meter. The purpose is to mark the trap location specifically, not just to mark the loft generally. Birds approaching home need to identify not just which building is home, but exactly where the entrance is. The cloth marker positioned right at the trap entrance provides that specific location identification. Some fanciers attach the cloth directly to the landing board. Others attach it to a small pole or stick extending above the trap. Others tie it to the trap frame itself. Any of these positions work as long as the cloth is immediately adjacent to the entrance and clearly visible from above and from approaching angles. The attachment point must be secure so the cloth doesn't blow away in strong wind, but it also must allow the cloth to move freely so it flutters in wind. A compromise is needed. Tie the cloth securely but leave enough loose cloth that it can move. Step 4. Tie the cloth using a secure knot. This is where many fanciers fail. They tie the cloth with a simple knot that slips or comes undone after a few days. Use a square knot or similar secure knot that won't slip but can be untied when you want to replace the cloth. Here's how to tie a square knot. Take one corner of the cloth. Wrap it around the attachment point, a pole, wire, or edge of landing board. Bring the end back toward you, creating a loop around the attachment point. Cross the end over the standing part of the cloth, creating an X. Bring the end under and through the loop. Pull tight. Now take the same end, cross it over the standing part again in the same direction as before, creating another X on top of the first. Bring it under and through that loop. Pull tight. This creates a square knot that's secure but can be untied. Alternatively, use a simple wrap and tuck method. Wrap the cloth corner around the attachment point multiple times, then tuck the end through the wraps tightly. This is less formal than a square knot but works fine if done tightly. The critical point is security. The cloth must stay attached through wind, rain, and bird activity. Check it after the first windy day to ensure it's still secure. Adjust if needed. Step 5. Verify visibility. After attaching the cloth, walk away from your loft to various distances and angles. Stand where birds approach from the race direction. Can you see the red cloth clearly from 50 meters, 100 meters, 200 meters? If you can see it easily from those distances, birds can too. Also view from rooftops or elevated positions if possible. This simulates the bird's perspective more accurately than ground-level viewing. From elevation, can you distinguish your loft immediately by seeing the red cloth marker? If yes, birds will too. If the cloth isn't visible enough, consider making it larger, using brighter color, or adding a second cloth in a different position for redundancy. Step 6. Maintain and replace. Cloth exposed to weather fades and deteriorates. Sunlight bleaches color, rain weakens fabric, wind frays edges. After several weeks, the bright red cloth becomes dull pink and eventually falls apart. This is normal and expected. Check the cloth weekly. When it starts to fade noticeably or show significant wear, replace it. This takes another 50 seconds. Remove the old cloth. Tie a new bright red cloth in the same position. The cost is negligible. A half meter of cotton cloth costs maybe €2 and provides enough material for 10 markers. Replacing every 2 to 3 weeks costs essentially nothing. Some fanciers replace cloth before every major race to ensure maximum brightness and visibility when it matters most. This is good practice if you're racing seriously. The maintenance requirement is minimal but non-negotiable. A faded, worn cloth provides much less benefit than fresh, bright cloth. Keep it fresh. Now let's discuss why this works and the evidence that it works. The mechanism is straightforward. Birds approaching from altitude scan the landscape, visually searching for familiar patterns that indicate home. A bright red moving object near the trap entrance provides a unique, distinctive visual signal that doesn't exist anywhere else in the landscape. The bird sees the red cloth from distance, recognizes that red marker means home, and approaches directly and confidently. No searching, no circling, no wrong landings. Immediate identification and approach. The evidence this works is both anecdotal from thousands of fanciers who use this technique and observable in your own loft if you implement it. Fanciers report dramatic reduction in wrong roof landings after adding cloth markers. Birds that previously circled and landed on neighbors' roofs start approaching directly and landing correctly immediately. The improvement is obvious and immediate, usually noticeable in the first training toss after implementing the marker. Leo Heremans used bright red cloth markers on his loft trap for decades. This wasn't decoration, this was functional marker that helped his birds identify home instantly from any approach angle. His lofts were already well designed and well positioned, but he still used the cloth markers because they provided additional identification security that prevented wrong landings and time waste. Gaston van de Wouwer was quoted describing his red cloth marker visible from 500 meters. This was a deliberate, calculated element of his loft design, not an afterthought. He understood that every second saved in identifying and landing at home was competitive advantage. The cloth marker was part of his systematic approach to optimization. Louis van der Velde maintained consistent visual markers on his loft for the entire time he raced. He never changed the colors or configuration because he understood birds learn specific visual patterns and consistency reinforces that learning. The red cloth was part of his loft's permanent visual identity. These championship fanciers use cloth markers not because they couldn't afford better approaches. They could have installed expensive electronic markers or elaborate painted patterns. They use cloth markers because cloth markers are maximally effective per unit of effort and cost. They provide exactly what birds need: high contrast moving visual signal at the trap entrance, with zero disadvantages. Now let's discuss variations and refinements. The basic implementation is single red cloth at trap entrance. This works for most situations, but there are variations that might provide additional benefit in specific circumstances. Variation 1. Multiple cloths at different positions. Some fanciers tie 2 or 3 red cloths at different points around the trap area. This creates multiple visual markers that reinforce identification. If one cloth is blocked from view by the bird's approach angle, another cloth is visible. This redundancy can be helpful in complex loft environments with obstructions. Don't overdo this. 3 cloth markers maximum. Too many markers create visual clutter rather than clarity. The point is distinctive identification, not creating visual noise. Variation 2. Different colored cloths for different lofts. If you have multiple loft sections or compartments, you might use different color markers for each. Red cloth for young bird loft. Yellow cloth for old bird loft. White cloth for breeding loft. This helps birds identify which specific section to enter. This is advanced technique for complex loft layouts and probably unnecessary for simple single-section lofts. Variation 3. Reflective material combined with cloth. Some fanciers attach small pieces of reflective tape or material to the cloth to enhance visibility in low light conditions. The reflective material catches sunlight and creates additional flashes of light. This can help in early morning or evening races when light is low. Don't cover the entire cloth with reflective material because that eliminates the movement benefit. Use small strips or patches. Variation 4. Cloth attached to flagpole or stick extending above trap. Instead of tying cloth directly to landing board or trap frame, mount a thin pole or stick vertically near the trap and tie the cloth to the top of this pole. This elevates the marker so it's visible from more angles and moves more freely in wind. The pole should be thin, maybe 1 centimeter diameter, and extend maybe 30 to 50 centimeters above the trap level. Secure the base firmly so wind doesn't knock it over. These variations can provide incremental benefits but aren't necessary for basic implementation. Start with single red cloth tied directly at trap entrance. If you want to experiment with variations later, do so, but get the basic implementation working first. Now let's address potential objections and concerns. Objection 1. Bright cloth looks ugly, and neighbors will complain. Function over aesthetics. Your bird's ability to identify home matters more than visual appearance. Most neighbors won't care or even notice a small red cloth. If someone does complain, explain politely that it's a functional marker for your bird's navigation. If neighborhood regulations prohibit it, work within those constraints but still maximize visibility through allowed means. Objection 2. Cloth will deteriorate and look messy. Yes, cloth deteriorates over weeks. Replace it regularly. Budget 2 minutes per month for this maintenance. The cost is trivial. The benefit is substantial. Don't let minor maintenance concern prevent implementation. Objection 3. My birds should learn to identify home without markers. This is pride preventing practical improvement. Yes, well-trained birds can identify home without markers through extensive familiarity, but even well-trained birds perform better with clear markers. Why make things harder for your birds than necessary? Markers help, use them. Objection 4. I've already painted my trap bright color. That should be enough. Paint helps but doesn't provide movement. Cloth adds movement dimension that paint lacks. Use both painted trap plus cloth marker for maximum visibility. Objection 5. What if birds become dependent on the marker and can't identify home without it? This isn't how bird learning works. Birds learn multiple cues for home identification. They learn landmarks, building shapes, relationships between structures, plus they learn the marker. If the marker is absent, they use other cues. The marker enhances identification but doesn't replace other learning. There's no dependency risk. None of these objections outweigh the benefit of dramatically improved loft visibility and reduce wrong roof landings. Implement the marker. Deal with any actual problems that arise, though they're unlikely. Don't let theoretical concerns prevent practical improvement. Now let's discuss integration with other loft visibility strategies. Cloth marker is single element of complete loft identification system. Other elements include trap color, overall loft color scheme, loft position and orientation, and surrounding landscape modification. Trap color should be bright and contrasting as discussed in previous videos. Bright red, orange, or yellow trap entrance and landing board provides baseline visibility. The cloth marker adds moving visual element on top of this colored base. Together, colored trap plus moving marker creates very strong identification. Overall loft color can make the entire structure more visible. If your loft blends into surrounding buildings, consider painting roof or walls in distinctive color. This is a larger project than adding cloth marker, but can be worthwhile. Even if you don't paint the whole loft, painting one distinctive section, maybe the roof section around trap, creates additional identification. Loft position and orientation affect how easily birds can approach and identify home. Lofts positioned on slight elevation are easier to identify than lofts in depressions. Lofts oriented so trap faces the race direction provide direct approach path. If you're building new loft, consider these factors. If you have existing loft in suboptimal position, work within those constraints, but optimize everything you can. Surrounding landscape modification means managing vegetation, objects and features around the loft to enhance visibility and approach. Trim trees that obstruct view of the loft from race direction. Remove objects that create visual clutter. Some fanciers plant distinctive vegetation near the loft that birds learn to associate with home. These environmental modifications take time to grow and establish, but can help long-term. The cloth marker integrates with all these strategies. It's the quick, easy element you add today while working on longer-term improvements to overall loft visibility. Now let's discuss testing and verification. After implementing cloth marker, you need to verify it's working through training tosses. Do several short tosses from race direction, 1 to 3 kilometers. Observe whether birds approach and land more directly than before implementing marker. If you see improvement, birds approaching more directly, landing correctly without hesitation, circling less before landing, the marker is working. If you see no change in behavior, the marker might not be visible enough, wrong color for your environment, poorly positioned, or there might be other factors preventing proper trap discipline. Don't expect the marker to solve all trap discipline issues. Birds that have poor trap discipline due to fear, health problems, or inadequate training won't suddenly become perfect just from adding a marker. The marker helps birds that navigate properly but struggle to identify the specific loft. It doesn't fix fundamental training or health problems. For birds with adequate training and health that struggle only with loft identification, the marker usually creates immediate obvious improvement. You'll see it in the first toss or two. Now let's discuss seasonal and weather considerations. Cloth markers work year-round, but performance varies with conditions. In summer with long daylight and clear weather, visibility is maximum. Bright cloth is visible from great distance. Birds returning have excellent visibility for identifying the marker. In winter with short daylight and potentially overcast skies, visibility is reduced, but the marker still helps by providing movement and color contrast even in dim light. You might need brighter or larger marker in winter to maintain same visibility as summer. In fog or rain, visibility is severely reduced regardless of markers. Birds might not see the cloth until they're very close to the loft, but at close range the movement and color still provide identification that static markers wouldn't. Even partial visibility is better than none. In strong wind, the cloth flutters vigorously, which increases visibility, but also increases wear. Check cloth more frequently in windy periods, and replace if it's getting damaged. The cloth marker isn't magic solution for all weather conditions. It's optimized for normal good flying weather when most races occur, but it provides benefit even in suboptimal conditions by offering movement and color that helps birds identify home. Finally, let's discuss economic analysis because this is important. The cost of implementing cloth marker is approximately €1 for cloth plus 50 seconds of time. That's it. The benefit is potentially preventing losses and dramatically improving race positions for birds that currently waste time on wrong roofs. Consider the value calculation. If one bird that would have landed on wrong roof and wasted 5 minutes instead identifies home immediately and lands correctly because of the marker, that bird might improve by 30 to 40 positions in a club race. If that improved position earns prize money or simply satisfies your competitive goals, the marker has paid for itself many times over from single race. If the marker prevents even one bird from getting lost, which can happen when birds land on wrong roofs and then become disoriented, you've saved a bird worth hundreds or thousands of euros in genetic and monetary value. The return on investment is enormous, €1 and 50 seconds to implement. Potential benefit of better race positions, fewer losses, less stress for birds, and more consistent performance. No other investment in pigeon racing provides that kind of return ratio. There's literally no reason not to implement this. The barriers are so low and the benefits so high that every fancier should have bright cloth marker at trap entrance. The fact that most don't is simply because they haven't learned this technique or they underestimate its value. You now know the technique, you understand why it works, you know how to implement it. The question is whether you'll actually do it or whether you'll continue accepting wrong roof landings as inevitable. The implementation is trivial. Walk to a fabric store or use old clothing. Find bright red cotton cloth. Cut a 10-centimeter square. Walk to your loft. Tie the cloth securely to a point immediately adjacent to trap entrance. Verify it's secure. Done. 50 seconds. The next time you train or race, watch your birds approach. Observe whether they identify home more quickly and land more directly. Most fanciers see immediate improvement. The birds that previously circled extensively suddenly approach confidently and land correctly. The marker is doing its job, providing visual identification that makes home unmistakable. This is the 50-second fix. Not painting the whole loft, not installing expensive equipment, not reconstructing the trap, just tying a bright red cloth that moves in wind and provides exactly the visual signal birds need to identify home instantly. Leo Heremans used it. Top fanciers worldwide use it. It works in every climate, every environment, every situation where birds need to identify lofts among multiple similar buildings. The evidence is overwhelming. The implementation is trivial. The cost is negligible. The benefits are substantial. Stop accepting wrong roof landings. Stop losing minutes in positions because birds can't identify home. Stop hoping birds will somehow figure it out through training or luck. Take 50 seconds. Tie a red cloth. Fix the problem. Your birds don't need a new loft. They don't need better genetics. They don't need more training. They need to see home clearly from altitude. Give them that visibility. Watch them use it, and watch your race positions improve as birds stop wasting time on wrong roofs and start landing correctly every time. The 50-second fix. One piece of bright red cotton cloth, tied securely at your trap entrance, fluttering in the wind, visible from 500 meters, marking home unmistakably, bringing your birds home directly, confidently, immediately. That's what separates birds landing correctly from birds sitting on neighbors' roofs. That's what separates good race positions from positions lost to identification confusion. That's what championship fanciers implement, because they understand visibility matters. Implement it today. Right now, stop reading and go tie a red cloth at your trap. 50 seconds. That's all it takes, and watch the difference in your next training toss. The fix exists. You know it now. Use it, and bring every bird home to the right roof, every time.